Hello, this is Gavin Patterson from Studio 1790, and I bought a new plugin. So there was a bit of a sale on recently, and like I need another plugin, but hey, I bought one. So this is quite a cool one, and I'm gonna go right into Cubase and give you a look at it. So the plugin I'm talking about is this. So this is the Abbey Road Saturator, and it does a lot of things. It can do several different things. So it's got EQ, it's got a distortion section, it's got something called a Compander, which is kind of cool. It can give you different sounds, EQ on the output as well. So I'll just give you a listen to it. So the track I've got up here just now is a recording of my fiance, actually, Agustina Pombo, who's a classical singer. And this is her and her friend playing piano. So it's very different from what you usually hear on the channel. So I'll play a bit of it to give you an idea. So piano, I'll bring some vocals in. So that's with the plugin engaged. I'll disengage it. I'll do a couple of runs with on and off. So this is it off. So what's it doing? If you can hear, if you're on good headphones or studio monitors, you'll hear two things I noticed. First of all, obviously it sounds a lot brighter. So it's cleaning up a little bit at the top end and it's giving it a little bit more high end. It's crisper. It's a little bit more clear. It's actually compressing it a little bit as well. It feels a little more together, blended. It's not as if you listen to it on bypass, it's not as rounded. It's a little bit it sticks out a little bit too much, so it rounds it out and gives it a nice crisp top end. What it's also doing is it's giving it three dimensions. You can picture the piano and the voice in a different 3D space. You can feel them in a 3D space more when this is engaged, and I think that's the Saturator that's doing that. So we'll go through each part of this. So this is not the mix project. This is my mastering. So the song's already been mixed, and I didn't use this plugin at all on it. I'm using it on mastering, just on this track. It can be used on anything, but I decided not to EQ in this particular master. As you can see, my EQ is doing absolutely nothing right now. I've got an EQ here, plugin, and it's all flat. I'm not doing anything. I don't even know why it's open, so I'll just switch it off. Then I've got the saturator. I've got my vinyl emulation, and then my limiter. So what I'll do is I'll level match it just now, and I'll turn everything, all the processing off on the mastering, and you can hear a before and after. So you can hear immediately the piano and the voice are brought into the same space. They sound as if they're playing in the same room together. Now, this piano is actually not a real piano. It's actually a VST. It's the, I'll just show you just now, just as an aside, it is the Spitfire Originals Jangle Box piano, or the Abbey Road piano. That's it here. Don't know if you could hear that. Yes, you can. What one was I using? I was using Vintage Without Tax. That's what I was using. And I just turned everything up full. So that's the piano I'm using. So I'm using MIDI. It's a really nice piano. I really like it. So yeah, it's not a real piano. So the difficulty I had with this track was trying to make sure that the piano and vocals sounded as if it was coming from the same space. And I think this Abbey Road Saturator does the job. So we'll go through it. So, first of all, input knob. Seems pretty obvious. That's the input into the plugin. Then below that, we've got ST, M, and S. So this is your mono stereo setting. So this is obviously this is a stereo master. So I've got it set to stereo, ST. Mono and stereo. What that does is gives you the chance to affect the mono information and the stereo information separately. So I'll give you an example. I'll just hit play and I'll increase the mono information. So you hear that when I take it all the way out, all you can hear is the stereo information, which is mostly reverb in this case. So if I put that back to 0, put it into stereo mode, put stereo all the way down. So it can control, basically the mono information is, in this signal, anything that is the same in both speakers. That's the mono information. So if you've got a stereo system, mono is the same in both speakers at the same time. The same information. Stereo is when one speaker is playing something different from the other speaker. That's the stereo information. And this plugin can handle those two things independently. I've got it set to stereo just because I want to affect the whole sound. It's mono and stereo together. You move down and we've got pre-EQ. So this is EQ going into the next stage, which is the Compander. I've got it turned on. So at the top here, I've got, this is a, what would you call it? A high shelf? Is that what it's called? Basically adding a little bit of top end EQ. Very little. It's very, very powerful. I'll show you in a second. It's crazy. So I'm barely adding anything. Like, in fact, I'm not adding, I'm actually taking away. Maybe that's meant to be 0. Underneath we have, I think this is gain for this here. So this little section in the middle. So it's like a standard EQ. You've got your high end here, your low end here, and then you've got your mid band. So it's a 3-band EQ. So that's your gain knob. This is the frequency selector. I've got it set at 740 Hertz, and this is your Q. That's how wide it is. So let me just hear what I've done. Okay. So I'm bringing out a little bit of honk just to round it off. I can't remember why I did that, but again, I just twiddle knobs until it sounds good. That's kind of my job. The next section, we've got the meter. So you can change the VU meter to measure the input level or the output level. I've got it set to in because I don't want it to be clipping on the way in. Compander, here's the Compander section. So this is a really weird, it's like a compressor expander situation. So I'll play around with it and you can see what it does. So you can hear what it does. It's like it dials in on certain frequency ranges and bands. And you've got a phase knob, so you can flip the phase on the particular frequency range that you're affecting, and it can give you a different sound characteristic. You've got your ratio, so that's for your compressor, I imagine. So it's got a little bit of compression going on. I think this switch on the left affects your low end ranges. So you've got 380, 160, and 80 hertz. And then this one is 750, 1.5K, 3K. And then you get a sort of this controller. Of course, we know what ratio means if you're familiar. Ratio basically just means how much is in a compressor. Ratio is how much compression is being applied. So the higher the ratio, the more compression. If it's at 1, it does nothing. If it's 1:1, it does nothing. 4:1, that's actually not very high for a compressor. I mean, compressors can go up to like 100:1, some of them. So I'll show you what that sounds like. So this one on the left is giving you different sounds for your low end, and this is giving you different sounds for your high end. And then you can get a blend here. So this is like a mix knob. So you can really dial it in. So I'll try and go back to my settings that I had before I started messing around. I can turn it off and on. Okay, I think that's what I had it at. It's destroyed my settings. Oh well. I think it was around about here. So what it's doing is it's crisping up that top end. That's what I was getting from it. It's really nice. You can get some really cool effects. I've got another plugin just like this actually that gives me a similar sound, and that's the Aphex Vintage Exciter. It does a very similar sounding thing. I'll turn that off just now. So this is a kind of amplifier that gives it a weird sound. I use this on stuff that needs help. So maybe a bass or a snare drum or something that's just maybe not been captured properly or needs more excitement, something to grab. If you're pushing up EQ knobs and nothing's really working or happening, I stick this in and it brings out or adds colour and character to the sound so that I can then use my EQs to scoop out and make it sound good. And that's essentially what this plugin's doing as well. But I'm using it slightly different. All the character and colour is already there. This is just bringing it out a little bit. So the Saturator, which is this section here, I'll turn the Compander off for now. So it's got two desks here. It's got the TG and the red desk. So back in the 60s, Abbey Road, they were using two desks. There was the TG series, which is like the TG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 desk, and also the red desk, REDD. So two companies that made mixing desks. And Waves have emulated the sound of the saturation on both those desks. And in this case, I was using the red because I think it breaks up nicer. So I'll show you what I mean. Oh wow. See there, I think the red was less intense. The red was much more rounded. See, when I switch just here between the TG and the red, it starts to compress. It starts to compress the sound too much and it takes the dynamics away. This is a classical song and I want a big dynamic range because classical music, orchestral music, it needs that dynamic range to be kept present. You don't want to overcompress. So I'm using this just to subtly compress, but not over compress. So I'm exaggerating it just now to give you the. So here's the red, and I'll switch to the TG and just listen to the compression. It's quite hard, that TG. It's very inappropriate for this mix. So I had it dialed back to about 50 and I had it on the red setting. Yeah, that's much better. And then after that, it goes into a post EQ, and again, I'm adding a tiny little bit of top end. I'll switch it off just now. Yeah, it's subtle. I'm doing something in the bottom as well. I'm adding this is so sensitive as well. Like it doesn't take much to make it do stuff. Yeah, it's such a nice sound. Such a nice sounding EQ. You cannot get that with just your standard EQ on a DAW like Cubase. I'll give you an example. So that I'll put up some top end. You can hear like harmonic distortion and color, and it's nasty. It's so good. Let me do the exact same thing, but on a Cubase EQ. Let me just get standard EQ. Studio EQ. Okay, let's just add some top end. You can hear it. You can hear it really distorting when you go hard, but with this, it's super clean. It doesn't really. It just gives you EQ. This thing gives you EQ plus saturation plus overtones plus phase. It's so much all built into one. I really like it. This is the first mix I've used it on, and I was looking for something just to glue everything together, and this really helped. So yeah, I highly recommend if you're looking for something to excite your mixes. Highly recommend this plugin. Check it out. So that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and to hit the notification bell if you want to receive updates and notifications on future videos. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.